Joining us now to help us break it down, Congressman Anthony Weiner, Democrat from New York. I obviously have litanies of criticisms I can offer up on anything. I'm sure you do too, Congressman. Here's the counter. When I offer this, I get on the phone, I call down to your neck of the woods, and I say, this problem, this problem, this problem. They say, Dylan, this is incremental, relax, we're moving in that direction, you're asking for too much. Is that a valid response?
Well, it's not the response I would give. Look, I have some of the same concerns you have. I've been on your show saying that I think we should have taken a giant step back here and look at how to approach this differently than just feeding the health insurance beast a little more. But if you consider where we were on Friday or even yesterday, we're a lot further to trying to solve some of these problems. We do need to cover the uninsured, and this bill does it. And we also do need the president putting his finger on the scale of these things. I think some of your critique is off base because I don't believe that this is intended to be everything. I think that there are a lot of elements, for example, in the House and Senate bill that are going to be as part of this final package. But the single most important thing is something you didn't even mention.
Yeah.
For the first time, President Obama is saying we need 51 votes in the Senate. No more of this 60 this or 61 that. No more of this making deals with individual senators. Just that point alone makes me wonder about why we shouldn't have been more aggressive to try to get a little bit more done, like the very popular public option or having a national exchange, things like that.
But that point also makes me really think, my goodness me, healthcare's back on the table post-Massachusetts election. It looks like they may actually be able to drive a legitimate form of healthcare legislation or a piece of healthcare legislation through Washington. Is that a fair assessment?
I think so. Look, they call this their opening bid or their opening shot. This is really very late in the game. There's been an enormous amount of work done here on Capitol Hill, enormous number of amendments, many of them by Republicans that have been accepted. Over the course of the presidential campaign, it was talked about a great deal. The president is, for the first time, can legitimately say, my plan. Up till now, he's been talking about various different plans, and I think that's a good thing. Now, I disagree with them that we shouldn't have left out the public option. I'm going to fight to get it back in. I disagree with them that having 50 state exchanges is not going to create a race to the bottom, and we want one national exchange. But overall, having the president involved in this thing and saying, I'm going to fight to the end, is what being a president is all about, and I commend him for doing it.
What do you think is the political risk of any piece of legislation? Healthcare is a good example right now, but we could almost do it with anything, energy, education, pick it, where the balancing act is the special interests who benefit from some form of protection under the government, politicians who are trying to achieve a victory by winning some sort of politically appealing thing, in this case covering everybody for health care is very desirable, and then taxpayers in the deficit when I accommodate special interests to achieve the political victory by kicking the can down the road. Do you feel like that method of politics at any cost effectively will have political repercussions for Democrats and Republicans?
Well, one of the things we're seeing in this plan is the president is conceding something that I had made a point on your show several months ago. You can't be half pregnant with the insurance companies. They're the problem. They're the ones that are benefiting from the inefficiency. I think he sharpened that message and made it clear in this bill. And let's remember something else. All this talk about socializing the system, what this is really is a bill that's going to drive public dollars into a private industry, the health insurance industry. I'm not crazy about that. But given the fact that we need to do something, and it's not about what we do as much as when we do it and how we do it, I think the president deserves some credit. We made too many concessions here to the health insurance industry, but that's the price of doing business. I think, frankly, if we're only looking for 51 votes, why aren't we pursuing the public option? We know it saves money and gives people choice, but my qualm is only that he didn't ask for enough, not that he got in the game at this late stage.
Last question, I'll let you go. I want to get to Ezra, but how much leverage do you feel like you have, or how much leverage does the House have to push for a more aggressive public option because of the new 51 vote threshold in the Senate?
Well, I got to tell you something. Now that we're no longer worshiping at the altar of the 60th vote and we're just trying to get majority rule in the Senate, I think we've got a lot of flexibility. There are a lot of concessions that were made along the way because we stipulated to the idea that you need 60 senators. Now the president agrees with me and agrees with you. Baloney. We need a majority rule in the United States Senate. That's what the people, the American people believe.
But just to put a fine point on that, does that legitimately increase the possibility of a public option in the final bill, in your opinion?
I believe there are 51 votes for a public option in the Senate. I'll leave it to my colleagues in the Senate to work that out. But I believe there are 51 votes. There might not have been 60, but I do believe there are 51. And since this whole is going to get passed with 51 votes, let's do it right, or at least righter, if that's a word.
Indeed, righter. I'm in favor of righter in this context. Thank you so much, Congressman. Nice to talk.